Hello my friends, welcome back to a brand new video and a brand new show. This week in social media, Elon Musk gets his X platform banned in Brazil. He moves his headquarters to Texas. Meta sees a rise in Threads downloads. Instagram has some new, small but new features. We discuss the Tik Tok ban that happened in April. We also discuss the LinkedIn news that they're going to be focusing a little bit more on video content. And in YouTube news, we've got a brand new course playlist, brand new course idea from YouTube to discuss. So in April, Brazil requested from X to remove some anti-government accounts because they were causing alleged unrest in the region. Now, it's unclear whether there was specific calls for violence here or whether there was just some, let's calm and say no to what allegedly happened. And it's that conversation around misinformation and false claims. And X's response was, there isn't really enough evidence here to justify a removal of those accounts, and it doesn't fit within our freedom of speech moderation policy. And then 2 weeks ago, at the time of recording, the Brazilian government threatened to start arresting and going into the X headquarters in Brazil. So in response, Elon, the now owner and leader of X, shut down and evacuated his employees out of Brazil. Out this morning, as I was doing the research and the notes for this, that there is actually been a full-out ban. When I started watching this, there was talk that it was likely that the Brazilian courts would actually ban X. There has been some pretty significant fines, specifically targeted at any Brazilians using a VPN to still access X's platform. And the reason why I wanted to bring this to the show, and especially as the top line as the show, this is the conversation about where does misinformation and where does the freedom of speech where's that line, right? Calls for violence, in my opinion, should be, not said, right? But the calls to peaceful protest, when you stand up and say, well, this wasn't right or this wasn't wrong, and this isn't specifically talking about the Brazil situation, but in general, we should be able to do in a democratic society, in a Western culture, right? And, some would say that having a view that's not liked by another percentage could be perceived as, oh, we need to take that offline, we need to stub that out, just because it's not a quote-unquote popular opinion, or one that maybe isn't connected or 100%, socially or politically acceptable. But does someone still have a right to that opinion? There's lots of quotes you could use, but it's that defending of the right of someone to able to say that speech or not. And, are governments going to, and this is a broader conversation that we'll also talk about a little bit later on and in coming episodes, about, is the social media platforms, especially the open town square, which X, Elon has wanted to create X to be, this free platform for everyone to say what they like, right? And where's that line? Should you allow hate speech? Should you allow calls for violence? Now, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm posing the question, right? So, it looks like, and this is in kind of links to the following story that we're going to be covering in this episode as well, that it looks as if Elon has confirmed that he'll be moving the headquarters over to Texas. Now, it's normally in San Francisco, and back in July, San Francisco signed a pro-trans bill into law, and Elon Musk has been notoriously known as potentially a right-leaning individual who is very against the concept of trans as a whole, right? So he would be anti-trans. And the conversation that I wanted to bring to the show was, if you were in this position, if you were in a position of authority and you had an opinion, right, which was or wasn't related to a political ideology or opinion, etc., would you make business decisions such as moving your office that Elon has to maybe send a message politically, maybe, say, I don't agree with this. Elon is saying, I don't agree with this, etc. But also, is that fair for the 7,500 staff that are working and have jobs in that building? And, if they want to keep their jobs, from my understanding and the research I've done, they would have to move to Texas to keep their jobs, because unless Elon miraculously about turns on remote working, which in most cases it's unlikely, he's going to say, yeah, you need to be in the office if you want to keep your job. And that is the expectation, I guess, from him, or my assumption would be that would be his expectation, to say, yeah, actually, yeah, you do need to move to Texas. Now, it makes sense from his point of view, because Tesla, SpaceX, etc., all these and the other businesses he operates, they also are operated in Texas, right? So you could make an argument to say it's purely business related. The research I've done actually implies, and he's been quite outspoken on Twitter about the fact that it's to do with some of the politics in the areas which he has his offices, and that's why he's moving to Texas, in that respect. So, like everything I'm going to talk about today, I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below, and do let me know. This is a brand new show and it is going to evolve. Moving away from X now and moving on to Meta news. Meta has seen it's kind of linked to X to be fair. There's been a large increase in Threads downloads over the last couple of months, and Social Media Today, which is one of the sources I use for this show, has said in an article that the conversation was around would Threads eventually take over X in regards to user base and etc. And there's a couple of points I would like to make on that in the article that I'll leave in the description, along with all the other sources down below. It says, and I quote, well, as in a long enough time span, sure, Threads is in pace at present to end quote, to continue to grow in such a way where in a long enough time span you would be in a position where, yes, absolutely, there could be an overtake in regards to monthly users. Now, something to consider about Threads specifically is that when Meta launched it, they pushed it out to the already established Instagram account reality, right? So all the people with Instagram accounts, which at the moment, at the time of reading and recording, it's 2.4 billion active users, right? So that's already a leg up. Now, I suppose the counter argument, now I think about it, is that there was already people on Twitter, right? So yes, you could make that argument, but it is in growth, sure. But if we look at the monthly users, which for Threads at the time of recording is 200 million monthly users, close to X's 600 million monthly users. That's a 400 million difference in regards to viewership and analytics, and people now, of course, this is going to be across globally, and we need to, in advertising or when we put our content out there, we need to look at where is the demographic that we're talking about, these kind of things. But if you just look at the overarching numbers, you've got one platform that's in theory growing or is gaining some level of momentum, with Mark Zuckerberg and Meta really pushing it as another option as for strong written content, like X is, or like formerly what Twitter was. But there is still a disparity of 400 million users. Right now, will Threads potentially catch that up? Potentially, yeah, sure. But as the article implies, how long is this time span going to be? Are people going to necessarily still be as interested in news and journalism and etc.? And there's some talks about why X wasn't in that specific infographic and that kind of download chart, and it's actually because of the way that X is actually broadcast or counts itself inside the iOS App Store as a news app rather than a social media app. So where does it sit? Should X be classed as a social media app? The Twitter or X, they're the same thing, but formerly Twitter, it was always used and always believed to be used for politics and journalism. That was and conversation. And Elon then bought it and turned it into this open conversation among adults in 95% of cases. In my view, I don't think children should be on it, of course, and I think that that is something else, and we need to protect our children, of course, online. But I think there is a level of acceptable reality when it comes to having an open town square, right? We've seen the rise of Rumble that I'm potentially going to be talking about in shows moving forward as well, you know, and seeing what happens in the news cycle. It may bring in some other platforms if I feel relevant and I feel I can add some value to discussing it. But, you know, the question is kind of off to you then, is do you feel that freedom of speech is important? And if so, do we need a social media or multiple social medias to be in a position where we can actually have an open town square style, kind of in theory, all things go, you can articulate your view, and then it's kind of up to the person consuming it. You could make the argument, say, to fact check that, make sure that's, you know, actually factually true. And, you know, if you're speaking about facts or you're speaking about a moderate thing, like there was a lot of talk when the riots happened in the UK about who did it before the police put it out, and etc. And, you know, are we validating that conversation? Are we saying, yes, absolutely, this is true? And is it up to us to fact check those things if we consume that information, or is it down to the person posting? You know, I did a written post around the time asking this question. I don't know the answer, but I pose the question again to you. Whose responsibility is it to fact check or make sure that we can look at the information that is being shared online, right? There is obviously misinformation. There is then things that are not technically true. And then there is research, realities, where we point at scientific papers, we point at articles, we point at publications, right? But is it an opinion which is not liked, but is still factually true? Or is it actually just falsehood, right? And where does this sit in regards to how much or how little censorship these platforms are? And is the internet a space to have that, right? And I think that's the important point about because there has been talk about X being very right-leaning and not very brand safe, you could say, and it is in turmoil regarding its finances because of this fact, because it is trying to champion freedom of speech, because it is trying to champion the concept of an open town square on the internet. But would Threads be a competitor? Clearly it's growing. So should a business look at potentially using their written content and maybe putting it on both? Who knows? The only thing that's going to see, and the only thing that we're going to be able to see, is what happens in time, right? But at the moment, at the time of filming, there is a £400 million disparity in, 400 million user disparity in the two, right? So one has 200 million, the other has 600 million monthly users. So which has a larger audience, which has a likelihood that it's going to be a part of your target demographic to talk to and add value to. Moving on to some Instagram specific news. There's some new fonts. They're great. They look great. They can be in line with your typography. They can give you some new exciting actions to allow you to stand out from the crowd when you're creating your posts. Also, you are able to now add stickers into carousel posts with text animations, so another way to give creators on Instagram another chance to jump out and be different. And also, talking about carousels as well, there is now the max amount times you can or amount images you can post on a carousel has now gone from, I believe it was 10 up to now 20, so that will allow you to go a little bit more in depth in those carousel posts as well. And in TikTok news, those who I've had conversations with and spoken to quite a lot, there's been a lot of conversation around what's going to happen with the TikTok ban. Is it going to get banned, etc.? So I thought it would be good to bring to the first show about where we're at with it, when we're likely to know more, and kind of to an extent what the reality is going to be for TikTok in the US, but also here in the UK and also across Europe, because in most cases there will be a level of copycat that happens depending on what happens in the US. And of course this year we can't not acknowledge the Pacific election that will be taking place in the next couple of months in the US as well. And depending on who wins that election is going to drastically change what happens to this policy, because it is a government policy. But to catch those up to speed and to catch those up, I'm going to read a couple of quotes for you. As of April 23, at least 34 of 50 states have announced that bans on state agencies, employees, contacts using TikTok on their government-issued devices. State bans only affect employees and do not prohibit them to using the app on their personal devices. So within a context, within a work context, for especially government-linked businesses or government-linked devices, so the work phones of your senators, your civil servants, etc., there has been, from April 23, in the US, in 34 of the 50 states, there has been a ban, flat-out ban. They are not allowed TikTok on their work phones, right? Now, what you do on your personal phone, up to you. Cool? Cool. Right. Now, you may be asking, right, specifically, what's wrong with TikTok? TikTok is owned by ByteDance. Now, ByteDance is a prominently Chinese company, and under Chinese law, so Pacific national security laws in China, the following quote is true. All organizations and citizens shall support, assist with, and cooperate with national security efforts and according to law, and shall protect the long story short is they can ask and they can request and they can be given access to any information that ByteDance may have on foreign bodies, on thoughts around what people's culture is in America, in the UK, etc., for the Chinese to use to push their agenda, right? I'm not going to go into the political details on that, but that's been the real main concern regarding TikTok since TikTok buying Musical.ly a while ago, right? And after it went through the US Senate, there has been a understanding of the following statement from the BBC that ByteDance has 9 months to sell TikTok to a brand new buyer, and then has an additional 3 months grace period before the ban would take place. So in a world where a ban is going to happen, still unclear, as I said, the legal battles continue regarding that and what's going to happen with that. And we're unlikely to hear anything at all until 2025, because we've got the US election, as I alluded to. Again, the BBC claim if, in quote, if Mr. Trump wins, he may seek to block the ban from taking place, end quote. And that, I would potentially say, is because he's closer to freedom of expression, etc. But we will have to wait and see. The government, I'm going to quote from the BBC, the article will be linked below. The UK government and Parliament banned TikTok from staff devices in 2023, and so has the European Commission. So again, they're following that American trend, which was you can do what you want on your personal phone, but on your work phone, where you could have sensitive data related to national security, related to what's happening in government policy, etc., etc., if you have a link to that and that's on your work device, we don't want TikTok on your phone, because there was lots of conversation around this ban in April about how much TikTok can see. Even if you don't have the app open, it can look, it can track your key presses, etc. If I can find it, I'll leave some articles, and if you do want me to go a little bit more in depth on this topic, then do let me know in the comment section down below. But at the end of the day, we're not 100% sure what is going to happen with the TikTok banners at the moment, excluding the fact that government issued jobs, civil servants, etc., senators, so on in America, MPs and politicians in the UK and the European Union have banned, that there has been a ban on TikTok on their work phones. When the TikTok CEO was talking to the US Congress in January at the start of this year, the TikTok CEO shared about Project Texas, which was designed to basically firewall off the US's data they had collected. The problem with this was the launch when TikTok launched in 2016. to March 23, when they finished this little firewall, there was a lot of data. And the conversation that the US Senate wanted to have was, well, what did you do with this data? Where is this data? Have you deleted it? Are you going to be deleting it? And the CEO of TikTok said that the Chinese government has not specifically asked or has not been given any data related to TikTok. Now, whether we know whether this would be true or not, different conversation. But that seems to be the 100%, and he seemed to be quite wishy-washy in the research I've done about when that would fully be done. He did say, though, that he would put a third party in to show and confirm that data has been removed. And, you know, I'll leave clips and resources down below for you to validate what I'm saying here, but it will be interesting to see what actually does happen regarding the US ban, because I think it will also be the UK that follows suit, followed by Europe. Because normally us in the West, we sort of look to each other to see sort of those social clues. But also, to you as a business, what does that mean if the US market gets completely locked off for your TikToks? What does that mean if you're using TikTok as an ad platform for you to reach other business customers or other consumers, etc.? If you're a big TikToker or someone who's creating TikTok content on their phone, is that going to magically change or drastically change your market? So if they do ban it in the US, and you know, if you're a global company, is that going to hurt you financially to your bottom line? If you're in the UK and you use it to grow your business and they ban it, how are you building your other channels? How are you building your company to be stronger so that you're less reliant on one TikTok related app? It could be Instagram, it could be etc. Because this is the conversation around what happens if a social media goes tomorrow. It's the pro for building your own email list, because at least you own that, you control that data within reason, so that it's unlikely to be down to one of these mighty global companies that can just make you disappear tomorrow, or a government coming along and saying, we don't like how TikTok operates, we think they're spying on the American public or the US public, or the UK public or the French public or the German public, etc., and we're going to stamp it out and we're going to make it illegal for you to use TikTok. Will they go the Brazil approach? And if they do ban the TikTok off US and UK devices, for example, will there then be fines if it's found and proved that a citizen is using a VPN to use TikTok anyway? This is a big question. This is something that we don't actually know the answer to yet, because it hasn't happened. It's been banned on work phones related to government, sure, but it could stop there. It will depend, and I'll be sure to give any input I can as more information comes out, probably in the new year, about what's going on with the TikTok ban. What does it actually mean for your business, and etc. So that's the TikTok ban. That's where we are with it. So there's been a lot of talk in a lot of marketing circles about LinkedIn and whether they're going to push video and what they're going to do with video, and the kind of TikTokified social media platforms. So you've got YouTube Shorts, you've got Instagram Reels, you've got Facebook Reels, you've got all these platforms who are really pushing short form video as a good idea for your business, and a good idea to reach a new audience, a good idea to educate them and showcase what you can do. And there was a lot of talk in the media space, a lot of talk in the marketing space in March this year about there's a small beta, and this was in March, of a TikTok style short form grid reality, which was, you know, we had this kind of infinite scrolling feed on LinkedIn, and they had kind of hinted at it quite a lot, and eventually they came out and they said, yeah, we are doing it. And now, at the time of filming, we're in September 2024, and we're now starting to see it as pretty mainstream for the platform. Now, where are the futures of it? What does it mean for your business? Like most times, when a social media platform does launch something brand new, they do launch something that, you know, this is a new product, a new thing, a new feature, there will be organic reach there. They want you to use it. They want you to mess around with it. They want you to try it because they want it to be used. That's why they're adding it to the platform, because they think it would be a good idea. So at the moment, the short form TikTok style videos, as long as they're informative, as long as they're to the point, as long as they're got a good hook, they've got good content, they've got good value, they've got a good C2A, they can really, really work, especially because the curve in regard to the amount of demand that there is for that kind of content on LinkedIn specifically is currently, at the moment, because it's brand new, because it's just going semi-mainstream on LinkedIn, is going to be really, really high in comparison to the creators that are going to fill that demand. So the more short form video you can create in a portrait format to go on your LinkedIn feed to help with your actual posting, so the people who you're going to connect with, those connections, building that rapport and trust, especially if you can put your face in it like I am here, but also to get more discovery on that new discovery engine that LinkedIn's going to have inside that video format, and getting people to use it. If you can be some of the first people to create content for your business and articulating your value adds into that format, what's going to happen is you're going to have a load of interaction, a load of views, and a load of traction. The longer you leave it, we saw this on Facebook about 12 months ago, 6 months ago. I was pulling roughly around, I'm probably averaging about 10, 15k on average on my Facebook page, but I was then pushing close to 100k because the demand was a lot lower. The demand was a lot higher, but the amount of people actually serving that short form content was very, very low. So I was being rewarded by creating that platform. We can do the same on LinkedIn in the next couple of months. I'm going to be messing around with it. I'm going to be seeing what those tractions are, and if I get data and I get some really good results or really bad results, I'm happy to share them with you as well. So do let me know what you think about that. It's unclear specifically about what LinkedIn's going to do with video. They might switch it and they might go, actually, everyone's backlog of content related to video is going to get pushed now. That's great if you've got some video content and you've been doing video content for a long time. If you feel confident enough to sit in front of a camera or need some help with that, let me know. But if you've got a phone and you feel confident enough to talk about what you do in a short form, quick, decisive way, and you want to really work on that, now is probably one of the best times before that demand gets saturated, before all the creators jump on it, before all the people jump on it and say, hey, this is a great idea, this is why it's good. Because you could actually establish, and especially on LinkedIn where one connection can drastically change your business, it's really important to leverage these opportunities when they come, because they don't come very often. We're seeing it now. Maybe in a year's time the opportunity will still be there, but it won't be as hot as it is today. So take that in mind. Let me know how you get on in the comment section down below. And ending off this week's episode is that YouTube has just announced the new launch of a free and a paid version to basically convert a playlist on YouTube to be a mini course specifically. So those of you, I think this is in answer to their rise of, there's been a lot of great get rich quick schemes or educational bits of content. I mean, YouTube notoriously is known for tutorials and these kind of things, so it's leaning into that kind of educational element. But there's been a lot of people who has created courses and then used YouTube as a way to market those courses and send you off to a website to purchase them. What I think YouTube's trying to do is say, hey, or Google is trying to say, hey, you can do that on our platform. Yes, we'll take a cut, but we're going to give you a bunch of great ways to promote it. So originally this was an idea that was in beta with a select number of creators back in 2022, and now it's looking like they're starting to roll it out across those creators. So if you don't have this feature at the moment, right, wait, give it some time, be some patient, and then it will. Also, they've launched www.youtube.com/courses, where you can get your course put in, showcased, and highlighted to a new audience as well. So you've got that level of discovery, especially if it's a free value add course, to say, hey, look, this is what we do, and if you want an extended version of this, then You know, let's do it. If you've got some tutorials, why don't you wick them into a playlist and do a little mini course? People can also, when they fully watch that playlist, they get given a little badge and they get given those kind of dopamine related hits. So it's really, really great to see. It's really, really great to be able to share this knowledge with you. That is going to wrap up today's video and this week in social media. I'll be back next week with another episode exactly like this, with exactly this kind of format, and hopefully a little bit more polished, because I think it's one of those things that you don't get perfect every time, and we'll be seeing as this episode develops and as this content develops how much better and what I can do to hopefully make it better for you. But thank you ever so much for coming back and joining. If you did enjoy this episode and you would like to not miss next week's episode with some brand new news, I've already started building the document, already started researching it, and then make sure to be subscribed, and I'll see you very, very soon.